Before I begin my remarks today, I, like Monica, really need to honor the elephant in the room. Not that I'm calling you guys an elephant. So for me, sacredness is like putting on a warm coat on a biting cold winter. Music is like a warm fire on a winter night. And this congregation is the warm, lighted window beckoning in the frigid darkness for me. And each week, our choir wraps us in the warmth of a sacred coat and lights a fire in our souls with their music. They bring richness to our worship and an added depth to our church community. And their music is a gift that they give with passion and dedication. And Ed, you have been instrumental in providing that. And I am more grateful than I can ever say. When we talk about time, talents, and treasures, you, my friend, are an example of that over and over again. And Diane, your kindness and compassion and empathy have been a balm to so many souls here in this congregation. So both of you need to know that we are all grieving. We wish you well, certainly, but it is grief, my friends. It is grief, and we will miss you more than I can ever say. So thank you. Thank you for being a part of this congregation. And may you have a long, beautiful, and wonderful life. God, I hate doing that.
But you do it so well.
So this week, I had some really interesting information. I received the news that I have to have laser surgery on both of my eyes for glaucoma. Now, to say this was disconcerting is an understatement of epic proportions. Now, for those of you who've had it done, you probably feel like it's no big deal, and I would imagine that at the end of this, I also will feel it's no big deal. And I actually am reassured by a great number of things, but one of the things that it did for me was it sort of led me to focus on more in-depth thoughts about my topic this morning. It led me to thoughts about the differences between belief and faith. Now, most of the time in our common usage, we tend to think that faith and belief are interchangeable. And so like any, my Baha'i friends refer to their belief system as the Baha'i faith, or there is also the Nicene Creed, which begins with, I believe in one God. And so I wondered, are those really the same thing? Are they truly interchangeable? I have a gut feeling that they are not. So, of course, like any good 21st century researcher, my first step was the internet and the online dictionary. Now, just for fun, what I would like to do is read some definitions that may be for faith, or they might be for belief. And just raise your hand and tell me which one you think it is. So, the first one, a feeling of being sure that someone or something exists or that something is true. Who thinks that's a statement of faith? Who thinks that's a statement of belief? Okay. Next one. A feeling that something is good, right, or valuable. Statement of faith, statement of belief. Okay. A feeling of trust in the worth or ability of someone. A statement of faith, a statement of belief. Well, that was my problem too, because all of those are a definition of belief according to the dictionary. I'm like, really? So that was not helpful. Now, the interesting part about the dictionary's definitions of faith is that all of them used the word belief. So, for one, a strong belief or trust in someone or something, a belief in the existence of God, strong religious feelings or beliefs, and a system of religious beliefs. Well, thank you very much. Now, but it is this last definition that I wanted to sort of focus on initially. That is this system of religious beliefs, because often that is the way people talk about faith. The Reverend Peter Morales of the Unitarian Universalist, the president of the Unitarian Universalist Association, calls these beliefs, when he talks about beliefs, he says, I am now convinced that belief, in the way we usually use the word, is actually the enemy of faith, religion, and spirituality. Let me say that again. Belief is the enemy of faith. When we dwell on beliefs, we ask all the wrong questions. My faith is much more about what I love than about what I think. For Morales, belief the way he uses that word in this context, it is a system of religious beliefs. It is a creed. Now, this idea of a creedal religion actually is a relatively modern idea, you have to understand. Most of the more ancient religious traditions, Buddhism, Hinduism, Judaism, they do not require a system of a creedal test, much like Unitarian Universalism. Arthur Herb Silverman, who is the founder and president of the Secular Coalition for America, has this to say about Judaism. I love this quotation. Theological ideas about God are private matters in Judaism and not enforced by a religious establishment. When a rabbi from the Reformed Synagogue in Charleston, South Carolina, spoke to our local secular humanist group, one of their members asked him how many in his congregation were atheists. He said, I don't know, we don't ask such embarrassing questions. The rabbi just laughed when another member asked, so which answer would be more embarrassing? The rabbi later told me that he was an atheist. For many of the world's religions, and certainly Buddhism, those of you in the Buddhist study group know that it's not really about what you believe. It is not about the creed. It's about how you act, how you behave. When we get into right belief, that's when arguments, fights, disagreements, wars, those kinds of things arise. And so, for me, there is a very real difference between what you believe and what you have faith in. And the difference for me, then, is much more that first definition of faith, that is, a strong belief in someone or something. So for me, belief is more or less scientifically provable. Laser surgery. I believe in laser surgery. It has been scientifically proven to be effective. It is scientifically verifiable. And I don't need to know all of the science. I don't need to understand how it all works in order to accept that scientists have made great strides in the delivery of laser surgery. Trust me, anybody who's messing with these eyeballs, yeah, I need that verifiable scientific proof. On the other hand, I have great faith in my doctor. That it really isn't based on any scientific provable evidence. I don't know him. I don't really know his skill levels. I mean, the times I've been to him have been great, and I feel confident that he knows what he's doing. I've seen his diploma on the wall, but, you know, I got a laser printer. But I do have faith in him. And for me, these two things are not mutually exclusive, but they are different, and they are both necessary. I love our 7 principles. You know I do, and many of you know them. They're in the front of our hymnal. And are they now being printed in the order of service? Yes, so they're in the order of service as well. Somewhere. Yes, right there, right there. Our 7 principles. And if you look at those, you'll realize that they are a combination of faith statements and belief statements. For example, our 7th principle, the respect for the interdependent web of all existence. Now, that is verifiable. We understand, science has shown us that climate change is very real, and that humans have had a huge impact on this planet. Clearly, we are part of that interdependent web of all existence. And that, for me, is a belief statement. On the other hand, the inherent worth and dignity of every person, how does one prove that? In fact, all too often, we see the opposite to be true. We see people hurting one another and hating one another. But the inherent worth and dignity of every person, of every human being, is a faith statement. That is not scientifically provable for me, but I have faith in the truth of that. And when I look at your faces on Sunday morning, I know that it is true, not in a scientific way, but here in my heart. Now, this idea of what is faith and the necessity of faith versus belief, faith, not versus, but faith and belief, these are kind of counterintuitive ideas, particularly in our culture. They are countercultural. They are even subversive. Many of our more evangelical friends absolutely believe that that faith is the most important part of that. They will deny climate change. They will deny that we humans have, some of them, and please, don't get me wrong, I don't want to paint too broad a stroke here, but we see it a lot, where people exclusively operate on faith. On the other hand, there are others who absolutely operate exclusively on belief, what is verifiable. They cling to baseball statistics and the NASDAQ index. And by the way, just as a little snarky side comment, I just recently read that the widow of John Walton, John Walton was one of the sons of the Walton family who founded Walmart. She found out the devastating news recently that, in fact, her late husband's estate, her portion of that, was not the 23 billion she expected, but only 5 or 6 billion. I feel so sorry for her. But these are the kind of statistics that Americans love, don't we? We love those kinds of statistics. But Unitarian Universalism calls us to both believe and have faith. Now, why should we care about this? Well, other than the fact that, you know, I'm a geek and I like to think about such things. And it's an important part of my job to think about such things. But the more important part, as far as I'm concerned, is because one of the joys is that, for me, is that this afternoon we're having our second Path to Membership class. I love the Path to Membership classes. There is something so exciting and wonderful about folks who have newly discovered our fellowship. And one of the parts of the Path to Membership is, there are several parts, but one of them is having people tell the stories of their spiritual journeys, which I find fascinating. And then we speak of our principles. And often people tell me that one of the things that's attracted to them is the freedom to find, that has attracted them, is the freedom to find their own path. To be themselves, to be fully accepted for who they are. Now, I've said this over and over again, that when people find us, they often fall in love with us. And they fall in love with the openness and the mindfulness and the welcoming attitude of folks. And then there's this honeymoon period that is absolutely lovely. You remember that first bloom of love when everything that the other person does is perfect and wonderful and adorable. It is so great. And then after a while, that adorable thing that person did becomes annoying. And the wonderful things that that person did really irritate you. You remember those things. Because after the honeymoon period is when the real work begins. The real work of truly building a deeper relationship. Warts and all. I don't believe that the honeymoon period can be sustained. Interpersonal relationships just don't work that way. But what does work is deepening your relationship. And in order for us to do that as Unitarian Universalists, I believe that we have to go deeper than just that surface stuff. Wow, so articulate. That surface stuff. Reverend Galen Gingrich of the All Souls Church in New York City speaks about the next phase of being a Unitarian Universalist. He says, "I mean that we must talk about something other than freedom, which is the absence of something such as coercion. People may be attracted to Unitarian Universalism because we don't believe in a doctrine because they don't believe in a doctrine they find abhorrent, but they won't stay because of what's missing. People don't go to Carnegie Hall for what they won't hear." And so I believe that we must, I know that we must go deeper than what I believe or what I don't believe. Rather, we need to go to, what do I love? At some point, my friends, each of us, every single person in this room, will be disappointed. We will fail. We will find someone in this community who has been less than kind, who has been thoughtless, who has been nasty or negative and disappointed us in one way or another. There will be a crisis, I can tell you that, because you're human, I'm human, we're all human. Sounds like Oprah. You're human and you're human, we're all human. Yes, we are all human. And this is a human institution. And there will be despair and frustration and anger and pain and sorrow, all of those things. And I don't believe, I don't think, I use that word too often, don't I? I don't think that beliefs will hold us. I don't think that's what sustains us. More importantly, what I do think sustains us is these questions. What have you loved? How have you loved? Who have you loved? And how have you lived? These are questions of faith. This is not creed. Morales says, true religion is about what we love, not about what we think. True religion is about what you and I hold sacred. The practice of true religion is faithfulness to what we love. The key religious questions you and I must answer are these. What do you love so much that we are moved to tears? What gives us unspeakable joy? What brings us peace beyond understanding? What do we love so much that it calls us to action? What do we care about so deeply that we are willingly and joyfully devoting our lives to it? When we focus on what we truly love, we ask life's essential questions. We ask questions like, how shall I live? When we ask the question together in community, it becomes, how shall we live together? What shall we do together? When we focus on what we truly love, we discover something wonderful. We discover that we love the same things. Love requires trust. Faith requires love. And therefore, faith requires trust. For UUs, I believe that deep trust in our own goodness and in the goodness of the world is where we must place our faith. There are times when I have failed. Several times in one day. I have disappointed myself and others. I have said or done the wrong thing. And that's when I need faith. I need to reassure myself that I have inherent worth and dignity. UU Minister Reverend Jane Thixton says, that's when I need faith. Faith that assures me that I am good, even against the evidence. I have to believe it. It's the only way to feel good about myself again, the only way to feel happiness again, the only way to realize my potential as a capable and loving human being. Let's face it, the world's a mess. Newsflash. There is suffering and loss in our own lives. But faith is saying yes to life. The world will fail us. This community will fail us. But as UU Minister Dick Gilbert says, the faith we share is a fundamental confidence in life, a basic trust in human existence, an affirmation in the worthwhileness of the human enterprise. At the end of life, my friends, when I die, and I know this from speaking with so many people who have died, nobody talks about the right of conscience and the process and the democratic process. Trust me on this. That's not what they talk about. When I die, more importantly, the people who care about me and who loved me, they won't care about what I believed. They'll care about what I loved and who I loved and how well I loved. So when I fail, may I find faith over and over again. And may we together, as Reverend Morales' words say, be compassionate and gentle with one another, raise children who are kind, joyful, and responsible, aspire to create a religious community where we can come to know one another more deeply, create a place where we can cry together, laugh together, sing together, learn together, and act together. Whatever you believe, may you have faith. And may this place be for us a place to renew our faith over and over again. Amen.